Good evening all. So we have come back with one of the most interesting topics that people talk about all the time. Employees are the new slaves of the 21st century. Is this true or is this an exaggeration? Or what are the things that we think about employees in our current times? And on this topic I will talk. So let's start. So employees in the 21st century, are they slaves or not? My quick answer, they are not. And let me just give a quick description for that. So basically, a slave will be doing a particular job because he has to do, and if he could not do this job, he will be subjected to aggressive violence, could be imprisonment, and sometimes death. While the difference is an employee enter his job with a full choice from his side, with preferences, with some kind of full choice from for exiting this job. And the third one is sometimes with a kind of pressure that put with a kind of pressure that put a specific amount of the kind of pressure that put a specific amount of commitment for him to a particular lifestyle. And this is something that people cannot really understand. They are sometimes stuck in a particular lifestyle for most of their life, from their childhood until they become young people, and they are living their life in a particular way, and they can't see their life being lived in another way. And for that reason, the problem is not about you can't leave your job. The problem is that you can't leave your lifestyle, and it's a kind of a mental problem. And so in many cases you would be able to sustain your life in a different way, rather than living in a rather than living a particular idea that actually I am a slave. That's the first one. The second one is associated with giving value for different things that are associated with your work environment. So sometimes you are in this job because of your education. Sometimes you are in this job because of training. Sometimes you are in this job because of a social network. Sometimes you are in this job because it gives your life a meaning. Sometimes you are in this job because you enjoy being there. So understanding the amount of money that you are being paid, and the amount of meaningful interaction, the amount of social network, the amount of belonging, the amount of love, the amount of transparency, the amount of affection that you have for this group of people, sometimes can be much more important than just raising the salary. And many things that are associated with happiness is not associated with that you should be enjoying, that you should be getting more money. I think a lot of things about happiness sometimes associated with interaction, associated with meaning, associated with purpose, associated with giving, associated with different aspects. Now, the thing is that when you are in this position, like you are in a job that you don't feel the interaction, your money is not valued, you feel that you are working all the time, and you are not working for something that is higher than yourself, and you just lose everything, and you think you are just spending your your livelihood and your young years doing something that you don't like. I think it's time for you to push the brake pedal and say, we stop here, we change our lifestyle, then we join another group that give a different meaning, and that give a different kind of lifestyle, and that can give a different way of looking at things. The third thing is about control. So in order to build big organizations, in order to build big companies that have 50 people, 100 people, 200 people, 1,000 people, 100,000 people, you will always be looking for a structure. You can't actually, humans cannot control other humans in masses. It would be very difficult. That's why the radio becomes a very effective mode of control, TV, and so on. The ways of delivering a mass media message. So I think in order to control a great number of people, there is always be a hierarchy. We could not overcome this challenge yet. So we always use this new technology, WhatsApp, communication, interaction, different way of trying to create a more dynamics, more interaction, more transparency, more meaningful dynamics within our groups. But we still have some level of hierarchy, and we still have some level of control. So every big company would have its rules, guidelines, and policies, and some people don't like coming stick to these guidelines, stick to these policies. Sometimes you don't want to come to work at 8 a.m. and leave at 5 p.m. You want to come at 8 and leave at 9, or you don't want to come at all. So in order to have this control of production, there will always be laws, regulations, and so on that control the production and make sure that your time is being well spent. So a fact that is being also should be shared, that some business owners exploit their employees, and the importance of this, that people should actually become more aware. They should become more educated. They should be told about their rights, and they should be told about the different things that they can achieve somewhere else. That they should be there should be someone to guide them about the different possibilities in life, and tell them that no, you don't have to live this life because you are trapped in a particular situation. So you can always try to leave this job and do something else. So that is being said. Now the fourth thing, when people tried all the options and they think that there is no other way except showing violence and sometimes stopping the work, and sometimes just making a strike and saying will not work except our demands are being met. And this is about social organization. This is about communication. This is about a clear way, clear organized work to say we are not going to accept these conditions. They are close to slavery rather than work, rather than engaging work. There are not a lot of options. We have to change the situation that we are in instead of going somewhere else. And always I say you should always think about this option as the last resort. I am always the kind of guy that if you really don't enjoy the place that you're living in, if you really think it's the kind of slavery, you don't have to be trapped with this idea. Just leave and find something else to do, and do something else that you enjoy, and try to value different things. So I talked about the value of social interaction and putting value and understanding why I'm in this job. And the fifth thing that I will talk about, which is very, very, I would say, which is quite important, it's about understanding the meaning of your life and the possibilities. And what if this job and if this kind of employment will not lead to a situation where I have sufficient capital to start my own thing, or to start my own venture, or to be in a part of a group where I can access more wealth. And for this, I will talk about really history. This was always associated with risk. Capital is highly associated with property. Capital is highly associated with land. You can't miss this fact. Capital is highly associated with natural resources. You can't really miss this fact. And for that reason, you should always think maybe we can discover new lands, and maybe we can discover new areas. And this is what the Europeans have done in the past. At a particular point, they started doing voyages, exploration voyages across the globe that is being financed by a group of traders, telling them go take risks, we can say shed your sail whatever you want in the world. So take risks and make an adventure that everyone will remember. Make an adventure that will make you be remembered in the history. Make an adventure that you that make your queen, your kingdom bride. And many of these voyages ended up in a miserable situation. They end up with nothing. But at least there was a group of people who are willing to invest in this risky intakes that would require manpower. Some people would be dying, and a lot of capital, ships, and so on. So what is my advice? We can't really explore new lands at this point of time, because actually new lands is sometimes is not as so new areas and new lands is it's always discovered, but we can always try to discover new knowledge, and we always try to discover new innovations, and we can always try to discover new products, and we can always try to discover new solutions to our problems, and we can always try to discover new ways of life and new lifestyles. And based on that, you should always try to find a group that will finance your risky intakes in life, that you will finance your desires, that you will finance your entrepreneurial spirit. And if you can't find this within the place that you are living, so the situation is immigration. So this is actually the solution for is employment the new slavery, and this is actually the answer. If you could not find the capital somewhere else, so I think you are equal as someone as many other people, and that's about the fourth option. When you reach a place where there is no way of actually trying to find a compromising solutions, you strike, you stop working, and you try to engage in an aggressive fight. I don't recommend this option. I think there are a lot of capital that is associated with for R&D and associated with taking risks all over the world. If you don't find it in your place, you need to travel somewhere else. And if you find it in your place, then maybe it's time that you try to utilize these opportunities. And maybe one quick element that you should understand, that this risky capital in many cases, as these voyages and these ships and these exploration expeditions did not meet the original goals. So, but it always has brought some hope, and it has always brought some level of knowledge and information to be shared. That is my quick intake. Is employment the new slavery or not? I will end it here. I will end my video here, and I wish you a great evening. And I shall say, Salam.